We build a great steel barrier or wall. Let work begin. He tweeted on Saturday. Politicians and lawmakers flocked to Capitol Hill on Saturday hoping to pass a bill before the holiday break, but without success. I am in the White House, working hard. News reports concerning the shutdown in Syria are mostly fake. We are negotiating with the Democrats on desperately needed border security, gangs, drugs, human trafficking more, but it could be a long stay, Trump tweeted Saturday afternoon. On Syria, we were originally going to be there for 3 months, and that was 7 years ago. We never left. When I became president, ISIS was going wild. Now ISIS is largely defeated and other local countries, including Turkey, should be able to easily take care of whatever remains. We're coming home. He added. Trump has dismissed reports on the shutdown, his removal of troops out of Syria, and the protest resignation of his Secretary of Defense Jim Mattis on Thursday as fake news. While Trump stayed behind in Washington to negotiate with Democrats, his wife, Melania, flew to the family's Mar-a-Lago compound in West Palm Beach, Florida. It has long been the family's tradition to spend their Christmas holiday at Mar-a-Lago, the First Lady's spokesperson, Stephanie Grisham, told CNN. Her plans to travel with her son to their Florida home for his winter break have not changed this year. Trump's ideal $5 billion budget would be enough for 215 miles of barrier along the border. Less than half of that amount would cover 100 miles of South Texas frontier that does not currently have a fence, according to Dallas News. A senior White House official confirmed to DailyMail.com on Saturday that the Trump administration wants 700 miles of wall at the border. Some of the requested $5 billion fund would replace old and wobbly fencing. He said that the Trump administration still expects Mexico will pay for the wall, even though the nation said it would not. It's about getting the appropriate amount of money that's necessary to build those barriers and being able to have the flexibility to build them, the senior administration official said. Trump says he wants to erect a great steel barrier or wall and shared a picture of a prototype design showing a 20-foot steel slat fence on Friday. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell addressed the Senate floor at noon where he blamed the shutdown on the Democrats, who feel compelled to disagree with the president on almost anything and certainly this. We've pushed the pause button until the president, from whom we'll need a signature, and Senate Democrats, from whom we'll need votes, reach an agreement, McConnell said. Single quote 60 votes in the Senate, majority in the House, and President Trump's signature. That's what's needed. That's what will end this regrettable episode, reopen the lost portions of the federal government and produce the investment in border security that our nation really needs, he added. Democrat Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer then took the floor to say there are 3 proposals on the table by himself, Minority Leader of the House Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell each offering up $1.3 billion in border security. Schumer said he's open to negotiating with the president on border security, as long as it doesn't center on a physical wall. He said, President Trump, if you want to open the government, you must abandon the wall. Despite back and forth between politicians and funding proposals, Trump has refused to budge on his stance demanding $5 billion for the border wall. He had son-in-law Jared Kushner, incoming Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney and Vice President Mike Pence negotiate at Capitol Hill on his behalf on Friday night, where they made it clear that less than $5 billion for border security was not enough. Trump notably previously said he would build a border wall, but would have Mexico pay for it. The shutdown will force 420,000 Americans to work without pay over the holidays, 380,000 will be furloughed, and 30 million small businesses to lose access to loans. But Trump didn't seem fazed at the thousands of lives affected in the partial government shutdown and instead shared a White House-produced video where he echoed the need for a wall. He dismissed the shutdown as the doing of Democrats, tweeting, "Our great country must have border security." Along with his video, "We don't want people coming in that aren't supposed to be here, we want people to come in through a legal process," he says to the camera. "It's very dangerous out there, Drugs are pouring in, human trafficking. So many different problems including gangs like MS-13. We don't want them in the United States. We need a great barrier, and if we don't have it, it's never going to work, he said. The shutdown may cripple the nation during the holiday season as thousands will be forced to work without pay or will be furloughed, meaning placed on leave without pay. Some of the Americans forced to work without pay include 53,000 TSA employees, 54,000 Customs and Border Protection agents, postal office workers and air traffic controllers. The shutdown will affect 9 government departments including the Departments of Agriculture, Commerce, Homeland Security, Housing and Urban Development, Interior, Justice, State, Transportation and Treasury. NASA and state parks will also lose their funding. It means 42,000 Coast Guard employees and 5,000 Forest Service firefighters will be forced to work without pay, according to projections by the Senate Appropriations Committee. However, agencies that are essential to the safety of life and protection of property will continue to operate. Holiday travel will not be halted in the shutdown as TSA and border agents will continue to work albeit without pay. The U.S. Postal Service, Medicare reimbursements, and Social Security will also continue to be operational in the shutdown. The government will only be partially shut down as Congress already funded 75% of the federal government through September 2019, according to AJC. And no one knows just when the shutdown will end. Trump himself said he's totally prepared for a very long shutdown. This is the third government shutdown for the Trump administration. On January 20th of this year a shutdown ensued after Republicans refused to fund DACA. Another shutdown followed on February 9th, which Trump stopped hours later. The longest ever government shutdown took place in late 1995 to 1996 and lasted 21 days. In 2013 another shutdown lasted 16 days. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer and House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi released a statement following the shutdown. Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House, they said. But instead of honoring his responsibility to the American people, President Trump threw a temper tantrum and convinced House Republicans to push our nation into a destructive Trump shutdown in the middle of the holiday season. They continued. President Trump has said more than 25 times that he wanted a shutdown, and now he has gotten what he wanted. They added that Democrats have offered Republicans multiple proposals to keep the government open, which include funding for strong, sensible, and effective border security, not the president's ineffective and expensive wall. Senators said Friday evening that they would not vote on any additional legislation to keep the government open until the president struck a deal with Democrats. The upper chamber adjourned a little after 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time without coming to a conclusion. Despite the government shutdown, which closed public parks and monuments, the city of New York independently announced they'd keep Lady Liberty's torch burning using their own funds. New York's Governor Cuomo announced Saturday that the state of New York will intervene to keep the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island open and running in light of the shutdown, covering the $65,000 a day costs of those operations. On Saturday Congress held their own negotiations, scrambling to come to a solution. House members were told they'd get 24 hours notice before a vote. But no conclusion was made as Democrats refused to up the budget amount to $5 billion for the border. The irony of this is that we all know this is going to end. It's not going to be different from the deal the president reneged on, political pundit Josh Rogan said on CNN. Saturday's debate focused on not just how much money to allocate to the border, but where the money can be doled out. What is fencing? What is land ports of entry? What's technology? What's staffing? I think there's a general agreement that we need to do border security. Now's figuring out how much for each amount, Republican Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma said to CNN. Right now we're trying to finalize all the final text and to be able to make sure everyone's looked at it, everyone's agreed, signed off on it. Then we'll move to a vote 24 hours from there, he said on Saturday morning. We've agreed in the Senate we're not bringing anything to the floor until we know all three bodies have agreed to it, he added. What Trump wants is a $5 billion border wall fund for a total of 700 miles of barrier. And he has the support of several Republican officials. I commend the president for standing strong on securing the border. He doesn't intend to capitulate. He's not going to, Senator Ted Cruz said. Friday ended with McConnell leaving the Capitol saying talks remained constructive, which stretched into Saturday's day of no resolution. On Friday the president tweeted that he's biding his time, sharing a photo of himself behind the Resolute desk with a stack of folios containing recently passed legislation. Some of the many bills that I am signing in the Oval Office right now, he said. Canceled my trip on Air Force One to Florida while we wait to see if the Democrats will help us to protect America's southern border. Twitter users then poked fun at the president for posting a picture of himself seemingly signing a blank page. The government shutdown may prove to be devastating for the U.S. economy if it doesn't get resolved soon. The longer it stretches, the more risks the economy faces. Financial markets were already shaken on Thursday when President Donald Trump threatened to shut down the government unless his border wall is funded. Experts speculate that the shutdown could threaten the second-longest U.S. financial expansion on record and could lead to a recession and wane deficit spending. Directly, the shutdown won't hurt economic growth very much because 75% of the government is already funded. But it could shave 1.2